Hi guys and welcome back. Today we're looking at the Pz.Kpfw.V Ausf.D or Panther Type D by Zvezda. This is, as the box says, a German medium tank. This was designed to replace the Panzer IV. This variant here we're looking at is by Zvezda, Russian manufacturer, and is in 1/7.2 scale as usual for my videos. It does say it's a snap fit or no glue required kit. However, I tend to use glue on anything that says snap fit because I just don't trust it. Artwork there, pretty decent. Looks kind of very like the Eastern Front, being a Russian company. That's hardly surprising. What you might note there is the lack of a kind of a ball turret on the Type D. As I said, the artwork was quite nice. It looks very reminiscent of the older style of artwork that we'd see back in the 70s and 80s even. So that's basically the front of the box there. As you can see, it has the Zvezda logo in the top left corner, the artwork of course, and a lot of the text is in Russian acrylic script. So that's basically the front of the box. Let's have a look at the back of the box and see what's happening there. Okay, so as we can see, the back of the box shows a completed model unpainted. This is what your figure or your model is supposed to turn out like in an ideal situation. So hopefully we'll have no issues with this particular one. I have used a Zvezda tank kit before in 1/7.2, and that was their King Tiger, which was I actually liked the kit itself, although I did have a lot of trouble with it, particularly in the region of the tracks and a lot of the the pinholes and things that had to be reopened and stuff like that. So it was a little bit annoying from that perspective, but the finished product I actually quite liked, even though one of the tracks was a bit of a mess. So hopefully we'll see if we can get a bit better with this one. As you can see on the left hand side there, it shows kind of a silhouette as to how many parts there are, the size, the scale, etc. And a few images there on the right of what the finished model looks like with the various detailing on it. So this side of the box just shows the Zvezda brand marking. It shows the colours that it recommends, the Zvezda colours and the Tamiya colours. Of course, those conversions are available online for anyone who wishes to change to whatever you're used to using yourself. On the far right of the box there on the side, it shows the barcode and the usual health and environmental recommendations as well. On this side of the box, again, you have the Zvezda emblem on the left-hand side, scale marking, of course, as well, and a depiction of the two Decal variants that are contained within the box. Both are from the 51st Panzer or Battalion in 1943 in July, based around Kursk during Operation Citadel. And you basically just get two different turret numbers. That's the only variation in the decals within the set. Box ends are both the same, and are just basically a reproduction of the front cover art there without the text, which is quite nice. And of course, scale markings and the brand marking again as well. You'll note that the kit number is 5010 if you're looking for this particular one. Okay, so here's a look at the first sprue. As you can see, you have the various road wheels, you have the turret itself, a few bits and pieces to do with the suspension on that. You also have the main hull itself and in the rear section as well. Detail's pretty good, as you can see there as well, I must say. Not so bad, and in fairness, the previous kit I did, the King Tiger by Zvezda, was quite nice as well. You can see the tools there on the right hand side, a shovel and what looks like a starting handle or that, and the gun mantlet and so on and so forth. So that's basically that particular sprue. We'll have a look at the back of it just to see how it looks as well. You can see on the back here as well, detail's pretty good. Most of these pieces won't actually be visible from this particular angle. It'll be the front view, of course. But good detail, good moulding, no flash. You know, these are relatively new kits, new manufacturer. So from that perspective, you wouldn't expect any problems like that. But all looks in order so far. So this is the second sprue, and as you can see here, you have kind of the a section of the upper hull which the engine parts will go into, and so they can be seen through the grills on the back of the engine deck. You also have the 75mm gun, some side skirts, and some of the road wheel parts as well, another part of the turret, some spare tracks, and a few other bits and pieces, exhaust pipes and so on. You will notice the towing cables, unfortunately, in the box were damaged. We reckon that happened in transport, but at the end of the day, a little bit of glue will fix that up. There'll be no problem at all. But all in all, again, detail looks excellent. No flash whatsoever. Really looking forward to getting this together. So let's have a look at the tracks. So here are the tracks, and they're these really nicely detailed, very, very accurate rendition of Panther tracks, I must say. However, they are in this sort of supposedly flexible plastic that bends into shape. There are little location pinpoints which will go into the road wheels as well. Now, on the previous effort I made with Zvezda, which was the King Tiger, this did not work out very well at all. In fact, it was a disaster on one particular side of the tank. You can check out my video on that. But let's hope that it works a little bit better on this one. So I've looked at the two sprues. This particular piece came loose in the box. This is the lower hull section where your road wheels would connect onto. This is a four-sided piece with the hull floor, the left and right and frontal areas, or lower frontal areas of the hull itself. Looking down into this piece, you can actually see the location pins at the front there, and it's basically hollow inside. There's no detail there. It does have a Zvezda marking and a model number stamped on it as well, but other than that, that's basically it. So this is the hull section, and of course, obviously, the rest of the tank will attach on around that. Quick look at the instruction sheet here. Looks fairly straightforward from that perspective anyway. The initial points there you'll be putting on are the front drive and a few other bits and pieces for the suspension. It looks fairly straightforward from that perspective anyway. We'll open up the sheet and see how complex it gets after that. Okay, so steps 2 and 3 are the road wheel assemblies, which hopefully will be straightforward enough. It doesn't look too complicated, in fairness. What I do like is this carry on where they're linked together. They're all sort of one piece, as opposed to trying to apply all the various road wheels inner and outer, which on some of the other kits can be quite complex and fiddly. Now that may lead to a slightly lesser detailed model, but in this case I don't think that really affects it. So in step 3 there, as you can see, these are the aforementioned tracks. You can probably see there where the location pinpoints are for the track locators. So we'll see how that gets on. As I say, it didn't go so well for me my previous Zvezda effort, but fingers crossed in this instance. Step forward, and again a little bit stuff for the hull. So you're applying spare tracks and towing cables and various bits and pieces there as well, vision slots and lights. Step 5, again, some tools, some more tracks, etc., a gun cleaning tube and more cables, etc. And then 6 is sort of the where the skirting goes on, and there's a little bit there of the engine decking. And at the back then, number 7, you have your exhausts and stowage boxes and so on and so forth. And then step 8, that you kind of put the two together, as you can see there as well. So your tank is really coming together at that point. You should be kind of approaching the finish line by then. Steps 9 and 10 there are basically for the turret. So what you're doing is you're putting a little bit of mobility into the turret from an up and down perspective. From what I can see there, should be mobile enough, I think, from what I can read with that. Again, you're putting in your commanders, cupola or cupola, whatever we want to pronounce that, for various different designations. And then in number 11, you're basically putting your turret in as one of those lovely kind of a lock in and spin sort of situations, as opposed to just a single little pinpoint or spigot point. These are very handy for wargamers that don't get broken very easily, because we've a habit of popping off the turrets and sticking a bit of cotton wool in there to mark a destroyed tank. And then at the bottom there, you can see you have your various designations as regards to painting and the application of the decals and so on. So from that perspective, it shows you how to do that. And that's basically what we'll be doing. We'll be kind of doing this in a colour scheme reminiscent of the old Airfix King Tiger, to match in with my young lads' German forces. This is actually for him. I'm finished with my Panthers by rapid fire perspective, but this is for the young chap, so he'll be using this one. Decals there, as you can see, aren't the most imaginative, in fairness. All you get is 3 German crosses or Balkenkreuz. Basically, other than that, you're getting a couple of turret markings, just numbers, and 434 and 445 are the numbers that are there. But other than that, nothing else. No other unit markings of any type. So that's unfortunate, but it would have been nice to have a little bit more detail there. But then again, there may not have been too many markings on these particular tanks as well. So usually you had your turret markings, your crosses, and maybe a divisional marking or something like that. But it'd be nice to have it there, but you don't in this instance. But at the same time, they seem to be fairly decent, and the decals that I used on my Zvezda King Tiger were fairly good. So I'm hoping these will be the same. So we're going to crack on and see how we get on with this particular kit. We're going to paint it up, as I said, in kind of a colour scheme reminiscent of the Airfix King Tiger, to match in with the rest of my young lad stuff, and we will get back to you in a moment with the finished article. Okay, so we returned with the completed model. So how do we get on? Well, apart from my mediocre paint job, as mentioned previously, I don't profess to be the greatest painter on YouTube by any stretch of the imagination. It's a bit of a mixed bag, really, to be honest with you. The plastic is rather brittle, or at least it's very hard to work with. As so much as it being a snap-together kit, that, to be perfectly honest, with this boxing anyway, was a fantasy at best. And realistically speaking, it would not snap together. There was no way that was going to happen. Those little pieces broke, and I'll walk you through that in a minute. Normally what I do is I use the instruction leaflet and I make notes on it for the videos, just in case there's anything that needs to be mentioned or that. And normally I have one or two little marks made here and there, and you can hear me just rustling this behind us here at the moment. But this is the instruction leaflet with the various bits and pieces I've marked on it. You can see the orange marks and things like that. The leaflet is covered in these orange marks. As a result, I'd have to give it a kind of a low score for buildability. Having said that, I actually quite like the finished result. I think it looks rather well, apart from my poor skills aside, as I say. But I think it's a great concept, just poorly executed. From an engineering perspective and possibly a modelling perspective as well. So, what went wrong? What went right? At the base of it, section 1 in the instructions, as we had seen in the early part of the video, everything was an excellent fit. So basically, the foundation for it, the lower hull and the bits and pieces that click on there for the front drive and all that, they all went in rather well. Couldn't complain there. That is the underside up around here, this area here. That all went together fine. What happened next was at the end back here, the rear wheels there, there's a little piece that goes into the hull. It's very, very weak, and it almost broke. It didn't break, but it was a close run thing. The intersection here, this goes on rather well, as do these outside ones as well. Then you start running into trouble. The tracks themselves broke in a couple of places, as previously experienced on the King Tiger. So they've broken up around here and up around here. So not great there, I must admit. Now, in fairness to them, they actually went together in the intended way, whereas it didn't on the King Tiger for me that time. So there's little location pins under here and here through the wheels. It actually worked on this particular set, whereas on the King Tiger, or Zvezda King Tiger, it did not work for me. But I think the cracks are a great idea, but because they're not as flexible as they could be, it basically it ruins this. Basically, it ruins the idea of having the tracks done in that way, because they're just not flexible enough. And I really did take my time with them. I've learned my lesson, I thought, from the King Tiger experience. But those tracks, the plastic is just not flexible enough at the point, certainly where it needs to bend. It will snap. So that was that. You get around to the front of the tank here. These little bits and pieces here. I'll just rotate the tank a small bit there for you. All these little pieces here had to be kind of drilled out a little bit, the holes for them. So that wasn't great really either. And the lights here, both of those broke off. Not a bother. There was there was no hope of those getting into the holes that they were intended to go into. The towing cable was broken into box, as I said, but we did manage to get it on there, fair enough. And then putting in the tools and bits and pieces along here, that wasn't much of a problem, I have to say. And I really do like the way they were done there. They're quite nice, has to be said there. Now, in the main body of the tank itself, we'll say the internals of it, there's a flat section which has kind of the fans for it. It's supposedly visible down to the engine decking here. They're not visible, so it's completely pointless. And that is a part that the exterior side skirts here adhere to, and these little location parts here, which I think are quite accurate to a Panther, in fairness, they're just too weak. They're not strong enough, and the holes that they locate into have to be drilled out as well. There's no hope of this thing snapping together. I mean, it'll snap, all right, it'll snap in your hand into several pieces, but it will not snap together in kit form, I'm afraid. So basically that was that. The section at the back, just to rotate it around a little bit there for you, no issues, to be honest, with the rear section there. Everything went on rather well, and I have to say, little stowage boxes here, these areas here, nicely detailed. So top marks there, in fairness, no real complaints. in that regard. I was a bit afraid of these little kind of towing sections here, or whatever they're called, that they'd have a problem, but they actually didn't. They actually did snap on. So pretty much one of the few pieces that did snap on without any major issue or having to be re-drilled or breaking or anything like that. So couldn't really fault that. Looking at the back of the instruction booklet here, and bringing the tank back around to the front for you. The gun section, mantlet and so on. The way that this is designed, the muzzle up here has to pass through the kind of mantlet here, because the back section is all one piece. The barrel itself isn't separate in that sense. And that's not a great idea, because it has to be kind of forced through this little aperture here. But I did get it through, in fairness, and it is kind of marked which way to do it on the instructions, but a little bit of a poor fit, we'll say. And there's a middle section as well where it's supposed to adhere together, click together, and then have a little bit of mobility, and it doesn't really work, but you know. On top of this then as well, you have the little hooks here, and back here, which are kind of, they're not handles, but therefore, as if we were to lift the turret off it in a repair workshop or that. They weren't great either. Had to bore out everything there again. The smoke dischargers on the side, yeah, they weren't too bad, a bit weak, but they went on okay. And bit of care needed when you're putting the gun structure onto the actual turret itself. It's a bit difficult to do in that sense. Also, the turret, when it goes onto the body of the tank itself, onto the main hull, I had to shave off a lot around the turret ring to actually get it on. You can even sit, it's not actually sitting perfectly there either, but it's as good as I could get it without taking off too much. Yeah, so that wasn't great. It snaps on, it doesn't snap on it. When you put the turret down on with the little location points, it just won't go into it, so you have to start shaving, unfortunately. But so that was that. And yeah, basically just a little bit too thick there, that was all. The commander's cupola, whatever you want to call it, doesn't snap on very well. Couldn't get that to go down flush. Just a bit of a disaster there. But it's not too bad, in fairness. So at the end of the day, I mean, there's a lot of faults with it. The decals were okay, I suppose, even though they were a bit minimalist. A lot of faults with it in that sense. It wasn't an enjoyable build, but I'm actually happy enough with the end result, if that makes any sense. I think the model itself looks well. Again, disclaimer, my modelling skills and painting skills, etc., aside. Would I like to do another one? Not really, no, I wouldn't. And I am planning to do a Zvezda Panzer IV, so that would probably be the last Zvezda vehicle I ever do, whenever I get around to it. So we'll have a review on that at some point in the future. As I say, strange enough, I actually like the end result. I like the detailing of the tracks back here. I love the towing cable. The tools are very good. You know, the look of it is okay. And I like the way that the tracks, the idea of the tracks, the concept of putting the tracks in that way, pinning them in and so on, and having them around, have a bit of flexibility around it. That it's a great concept. I think if it was executed properly, it would have been brilliant. But at the same time, if you're going to have small pieces like these pieces at the front here, driver's periscopes or whatever they are, all those bits and pieces, if you're going to do that, at least have it that they can snap in if they're supposed to snap in, or even if they're not supposed to snap in, that the thing will actually fit into the hole provided, because that was a real dose, shall we say, trying to get those in there, and there was a lot of messing and pulling and dragging at it, like it just wasn't worth it. But as I say, having said that, I think at the end of the day, I think the tank is quite nice. I like it myself. And in fairness, it's for the young lad. It's done up in the colours recommended by Airfix for their King Tiger, so you can check that out. I think it's 160 and possibly 94 and 86 Humbrol and enamels. And we just lashed on a load of null and oil over it by Citadel to give it a real dirty, scuffed up sort of appearance, because that's what he's going for at the moment with his armour. So yeah, that was that. But that was it, guys. That was the review on the Zvezda Panzer V Type D. As I say, a bit of a mixed bag. I didn't enjoy putting it together, but I do like the tank itself. I think it's a nice looking vehicle, but I just wouldn't do it again. So that's it. We'll be back again with some more videos fairly shortly for you. So if you'd like and subscribe and all that business, that'd be great. Thanks, guys. All the best for now.